Eternal returns to Perth, HBF Stadium. Why should you watch? Let's find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your main event.
Live from HBF Stadium Festival Hall. Melbourne Pavilion. Not even backstage, we're literally outside.
Was that the best fight card in Australian MMA history?
Call me crazy, but make sure you call me when I'm right.
Be good if the Aussie MMA Instagram page would give us a bit of glow up, because...
Welcome to the Australian MMA podcast. My name is Mitch. It's Tinley, and October 26th this weekend, as of recording, Eternal MMA returns to HBF Stadium. Couple of injuries to some fun fights I was looking forward to, but it doesn't mean that the old mix-up and shake-up isn't just as fun. Some absolute bangers are on the card, so let's break them down. Firstly, got to talk about the main event. That is, of course, the boogeyman, the scariest man in all of mixed martial arts in Australia. Any weight division, don't care who you are. Aldin Bates, the man that takes years off your life and the years off your wife's life because she has to watch you fight. She's like, and then like she loses years off her life. Aldin Bates taking on Stephen Costello. Now, we'll go into both those boys, but they're fighting for the interim welterweight title because Lockie Stitt, Deadshot, who is easily most improved fighter of the year from this time last year to now, going from a loss to Peter Templer last year to all of a sudden being the king of the welterweight division. I think it's very impressive, Mr. Lockie Stitt. So hopefully he gets healed up and we can see one of these scariest welterweight matchups in recent time if Holden can get the job done. Now, I will be heavily biased into this. Of course, I want to see a great fight, and Stephen Costello has some good points coming into this fight, but it wouldn't be Australian MMA if I don't have to say I'm even rooting for Aldin Bates because I've seen him in person and he's a very scary man. No, I do think Aldin Bates he's got the world's biggest chip on probably the world's biggest shoulders, because I think it's quite interesting. Now, he has kind of been all over the joint this year. He's fight on Hex, fight on Eternal, fight on Hex, some of the Eternal, back with the Hex. Like, he's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The man does whatever he wants, which is part of the allure. I really do think he's like box office. He's the most exciting man, I feel, in Australian MMA right now, because when he hits people, he knocks them dead. Now, you take it back to, I think it was March, fighting for the Hex welterweight title, of which he took off Jono Mikhailov, who just got signed to the UFC with one of the most impressive first-round finishes against Muhammad Ado. Pretty formidable foe. And Jono Mikhailov, took him out quite convincingly, and he's probably going to be a bit of a star in the UFC. And Aldin Bates beat him in March. So, I mean, if you're Aldin Bates, you've almost got to be like pissed off. Now, the UFC has notoriously despised people over 35. They just, for some reason, hate them. They will not sign them. They will not put them on the contender series. It does not matter if you murder a man, you will not get onto the contender series. So I feel like Aldin Bates, despite how hard he works, despite the stellar career that he has had, it's like he needs to kill someone to get into the UFC, and he's capable. He's one of the, like I said, the scariest sort of knockout artists we have. He is, if just Aldin Bates was fighting on a card, I would buy a ticket. That is not hyperbole, guys. He is one of the most exciting fighters you will ever see. It is just pure violence. And I'm not kidding. Like, he takes years off your life, and he seems to be like peaking again, which is quite interesting. Of course, the loss in the rematch to Jack Della, you kind of thought at his age maybe he was kind of done with fighting, and he's fight against Varkey at Eternal earlier, his fight against Jono Mikhailov, the beating he put on Stu Dare, like he's on a roll. And at 37, stupidly, the UFC doesn't seem to be looking at him. I mean, they seem to be calling Ben Johnston old, who's like 33, 34, whatever he is. I think he's 33. And so Aldin Bates at 37, they just, for some reason, not looking at him And I think it's ridiculous. Sign him, one fight deal, put him up against anyone. He'll either get knocked out or he'll knock someone out. So look, you can tell that I'm definitely championing him, but standing in front of him is a really tough task. I mean, you have to go international these days to get Holden Bates a fight. Of course, the other welterweights in Australia are sort of locked up. Kit Campbell, which I would love to see that fight with Holden Bates, and Caleb Rideout, another fight, which I think was matched in the past and fell out. That would be good to see. But Holden Bates eventually, or seemingly, getting stripped by Heck so that those boys can dance for that title. But it's good news for Eternal because they get to kind of have Holden Bates on the card. He's taken on Stephen Costello, who's 5-2, I believe. He just recently picked up the Fight to One, no relation to One FC, Fight to One welterweight championship. I think he won by ground and pound. Stephen Costello has fought. He's done a bit of everything, he got decisions, got stoppage victories. He's fought Ian Machado Gary, who is a superstar of a welterweight in the UFC. Costello trains out of Straight Blast Gym in Ireland, of course, under the great John Kavanagh. Don't know if he'll be out, if he'll be making the trip out, but it would be pretty cool if he did, but I don't think he will. Yes, and I'm going to say training partner with Conor McGregor because it'll trick you guys into thinking he's even more cooler than he is, but I haven't found any photos or anything to back that up, but I can only imagine, they train at the same gym, they're aligned, so we're going to connect them like that. But look, Costello, if you watch him online, he's definitely a good fighter. He's well-rounded, got weapons everywhere. Definitely hanging for Holden Bates, just because I just feel like that man is kind of going to prove everyone wrong. If he keeps knocking people dead, even at 40, he should get signed to the UFC, because I want to break this stupid stigma that you have to be young. Just if you do the job, you should get the job. If there was any other industry, be a bloody outcry to get him in. So hopefully Holden Bates can put on a show in the main event. Co-main event, Raymart Quintana out of Australian top team taking on Daichi Kamiya. There you go. As always on Australian MMA, the most cultured podcast. 5-0. Daichi was supposed to take on Jack Becker, who unfortunately picked up an injury. Jack Becker in a very important stage of his career, so don't mind him sitting that one out, because I think he's 1 or 2 fights away from maybe getting his chance, or 1 or 2 fights away from it never happening again. So I feel like this is a very, very important time in his career, so don't mind him sitting out there. And of course, unfortunately, Chris Fishgold, who's supposed to take on Raymart Quintana, who is the former UFC fighter, bare knuckle fighter, Cage Warriors, just stud. I think he was a lightweight. Used to be basically the Batman and Robin of Paddy Pimblett and Chris Fishgold back in the day. They were both stars. Fishgold's still sort of kind of trying to build on that resurgence. But yes, he got injured, and unfortunately, that was going to be an absolute banger and a huge fight for Raymart, who has taken 5 years. He's had 1 fight, I think, in 5 years. Great fighter out of Australian top team, and look, hunts blood diamonds more than Leonardo DiCaprio in 2006 when he took on Blood Diamond, which is sorry about that. Of course, the city kickboxing stud of a fighter, good friends, good pals with Israel Adesanya, gone out headhunting against a guy that was supposed to headhunt him. So I think it showed how impressive Raymart is, and I think he was on the talks about getting on the Contender Series this year. I don't know how concrete those sort of plans were, but a few more knockouts and a few more stoppages, and I can't imagine he doesn't. I think he signed, I could be wrong here, I think he signed with Iridian, which a lot of their guys end up in the UFC. So I don't know if that's still the case or what's happening there. I'm sort of just speaking out of my ass. But look, Raymart is an absolute stud of a fighter. Very, very exciting. Probably one of the most underrated lightweights going around. So that's going to be very, very exciting fight as well. Unfortunate of Mr. Becker and Fishgold falling out, but it still doesn't mean that this fight isn't going to be exciting. And what I have seen of Daichi online, it's going to be quite exciting between him and Raymart. Next fight down the card, the Killmonger, Moses Deng, one of the scariest 0-1 guys going around. There's a lot of scary 0-1 guys. Ethan Mitchell, Kane Rickus, the guy he's fighting on, just dudes that are starting out 0-1 and they're just going to be quite talented. Moses Deng, unfortunately, went down to Odin Muscat in a beautiful knockout, not for Moses, but for Odin. But Moses is a super exciting guy. Talks shit, beautifully flowing flyweight, training out of Wolves Den, and he's just kind of got it all. Got the whole look and talk some shit, and he's got one of these things online. Might attach it, might not. Go check it out. He basically had a domination fight series. I think it was like his he's like amateur debut or something, and he was like doing like the Ali shuffle. And then drops a guy with the overhand right. Like he's a very, very exciting guy. So shout out to Moses. You definitely want to check him out as well. And Kane Rickus will fight just about anyone out of the Westro Combat Academy. Kane Rickus, real mixed bag. You don't really know what you're going to get with him. Unfortunately, he's got the skills to mix it up with, I reckon, just about anybody, but it's just kind of like which Kane will show up, who will he be? And against a guy like Moses Deng, you got to be really, really switched on, or it is not going to go your way. Mitch Holden versus Stephen Wong, next fight on the card. Final pro fight of the card. And I'll go into the amateurs a little bit later on because there's some super exciting amateurs on this card as well. Mitch Holden, don't know a whole lot about him, but on one in his career, and hopefully he can make me sort of take notes. But I feel like this is a real sort of opportunity for Stephen Wong, who I think was 6-3 in his amateur career, finally going pro. He should have gone pro years ago. In my opinion, he's like the #1 training partner of Quillan Southfield, our soon-to-be UFC superstar. Stephen Wong, main training partner. And look, he's very good. He's very disciplined. He's been around for a very, very, very long time. I think it's technically his pro debut. If you check his Tapology, I think it says he's had like a pro fight, but I do not think that is the case. But yes, pro debut, taking on Mitch Holden. I will expect a very technical, grappling heavy focus from Mr. Wong. And I think this is set up for hopefully him to have a nice little professional mixed martial arts career to Mitch Holden. I've done a little bit of research, haven't found a whole lot. So if you can hear me and you watch this, prove me wrong. And then when you win, go boom, in your face, bitch, and I'll accept it. Moving on to the amateurs. Like we said, unfortunately, a few pro fights fell out of this Eternal card. But if you're as big a nerd as me when it comes to mixed martial arts, especially here in Australia, I'm going to go through some of the amateurs. Now, some young guys that I know and some others. Look, they're just fun fights. Aiden Todorov versus Laura. Laura has been kind of, I don't know, a lot of people have told me to keep an eye on him, Moses Deng especially. Aiden Todorov actually trains at my gym where I'm at. He is a gamer. He literally will come to fight. He's one of the most intimidating people I have ever seen. He actually even won the Fighter of the Night at the West Coast Combat Series. So Aiden Todorov is a guy that is allergic to boring fights. So he's definitely not going to have a boring fight there. Paddy Cameron is definitely someone to watch. He's on the card. Jackson McClellan will fight anyone. We've got Ratcliffe Buckley. Once again, we've had him on West Coast Combat Series. He is one of those guys that will just kind of fight anyone. So his record looks like quite shit sometimes, but it's amateurs and he doesn't care. And he's getting out there and just fighting anyone. So Ratcliffe Buckley, keep an eye on him. And then, of course, got Jason McDonald. He's been around for a little while with Kick-Ass MMA. He's had I think the last fight I called with him was a Battle Royale at Kick-Ass MMA. It was kind of like their promotion that they ran. He won by Superman Punch. So Jason McDonald, definitely one to keep an eye on. And there is Ali Alhirs taking on Nathan Rosario. I don't know his guy's last names, but I do know them as fighters. Nathan's gamer. It's got some good stand-up. And Ali Alhirs is one of these guys that will pull off like a flying triangle and then throw a spinning wheel kick, try and knock you out of Australian top team. So anyone out of Australian top team, they're going to be absolute bangers and bring the fight. And of course, Nathan training out of Base MMA. It's similar to Aiden Todorov, who is a little bit further up the card. But guys, a little background on the amateurs. UFC Fight Pass, check it out. Eternal MMA 89, October 26th. I think it'll kick off around about 6 p.m. The pro card on Australian Eastern Daylight Time. And I think the prelims are a little bit earlier, but check out Eternal MMA if you want to watch that, or drop in the comments anyone to watch or to check out. And other than that, Australian MMA _ And yeah, I'll see you there. Aldin Bates, the boogeyman. He's back.